Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I get to watch and review this long gestating big sci-fi film from Lionsgate, Chaos Walking. And this is based off of a novel by Patrick Ness, who also did A Monster Calls, and this is written by, over the course of the years, 8 different people contributed to this film. This is directed by Doug Liman from Edge of Tomorrow and The Bourne Identity, starring Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, two of the biggest rising stars in Hollywood. And then you have David Oyelowo and Cynthia Erivo and Damian Bashir and Mads Mikkelsen. And you're like, this is going to be great. But it wasn't. Boy, is this film interesting. This was filmed in 2017. Had to come back 2 years later because of scheduling conflicts for reshoots. And then 2 years after that, finally is getting released. So this has been on the shelf there for a while, and I can see why. Definitely the fact that so many people, including Charlie Kaufman of all people, were involved in making this script and just throwing it all together. There's a lot of weaknesses in the script. There's just, the characters really aren't interesting. They do have some interesting ideas that the film brings about because you have this community on this planet who all men, and they experience noise, which is their thoughts are all expressed and projected outside of their bodies. And Doug Liman does an interesting job of creating these visual techniques and how they use the special effects to visualize those things and cause some interesting scares and tension and different kinds of things like that throughout the film, which I thought was an interesting addition in how they realized that. But you have this community, and Tom Holland is a young man in this community, which one of his fathers is Damian Bashir. The mayor is played by Mads Mikkelsen, and then his son is Nick Jonas, which was interesting, who's kind of a really cruel kind of character, and then you have this reverend who, there's a conflict between the mayor, who keeps his projections inside and then manipulates people, who's not a great guy, and then you have this reverend who is projecting at all times in an aggressive manner because this is what's right, and he's not a great guy, and he's played by David Oyelowo, and you just have these what could have been interesting conflicts, but they never really dig deep enough to capture the thought and the depth of those ideas. And then you have this space shuttle crashing with one survivor, a young woman, Daisy Ridley, and shakes things up, and Tom Holland and herself go on the run and try to find this other town, and this other town is just kind of thrown in there, and you don't really get to see a whole lot of depth in these characters or these ideas. And you have your two main characters who aren't particularly interesting. They're kind of just people there, and of course, Tom Holland has a cute little dog, and of course this movie goes places that it's just how dare you? Why would you do that to me? And it feels cheap and manipulative. And the story, it builds to a climax, but it never feels this film never feels like it kicks into the next gear. And Doug Liman does some interesting things with the effects and the world building here, and there's some kind of interesting action in the film, but there's never enough action or enough intrigue to really grab your attention and make you run with it. And I'm sitting there watching this film and feeling this never really feels fully realized, never fully interesting enough. And you throw all this money at it, it has an interesting look to it, and there's definitely some interesting designs, like Mads Mikkelsen's outfit. He has this really obnoxious big red fur coat, and Daisy Ridley at one point looks like this really weird neon lumberjack. And you just have those kinds of interesting choices in the design, which makes it interesting and different and unique in ways, but the story and the characters never really live up to that. And you kind of feel like you're just here for this blah of a story, and you never feel the weight emotionally of any of this because you never really care about the characters or feel fully connected to them. So you have a lot of wasted talent in this film. Yes, David Oyelowo and Mads Mikkelsen can be intense in this film, but so many of the other actors just feel kind of flat because they don't have enough to work with. And that includes our leads. Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley are both very talented, don't really get a whole lot to do. There's definitely some fun moments, and there's an interesting cop-out moment with the projections earlier on in the film between the two of them that got a laugh out of me. And there's those kinds of moments. Those are the most interesting things, is what they do with the projections and stuff like that. But there's not enough weight to the story overall to make those things feel meaningful as part of a greater whole. They just feel like cool little snippets in an overall disappointing narrative. And in the end, Chaos Walking just feels like some cool special effects with a strong cast, but not character or in story. And you just feel by the end, you're like, I don't know if anything really popped in this. And it goes from the very beginning, the film feels really overwhelming because they're having like everybody's thoughts popping out and projecting out of their heads, and it gets annoying real quick. And after a while you kind of forget it, but it's still a shaky beginning. And then the whole rest of the film never really kicks it into the next gear and delivers something particularly interesting or exciting. And in the end, Chaos Walking just kind of feels like a wasted opportunity. And that's pretty disappointing. But those are my thoughts on Chaos Walking. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.